Hi, good morning. I'm Richard Gilton, and I have here today Raquel Sanders. Tracy Norris is over here on the computer tech board or whatever. Savannah Diesel and Eugene Gilton. Actually, these three are the fourth generation of Gilton that are here present with us today. I'm a third generation. I was asked to talk a little bit about Gilton's history and where we're at today with waste recovery, recycling, all the other things that are going on in today's world of that kind of pertains to who we are and what we're doing. So I'd like to just bore you a little bit with the 75-year history or so of Gilton. I guess it's not quite 75 yet, it's getting close. But my grandfather, T.F. Gilton, in 1943, migrated out from Oklahoma. He moved west into Arizona with 10 kids, and some of them had spouses. They looked around and they found some work picking cotton in Gilbert, Arizona. And then they stayed there for a while and moved on into Corcoran, California, where they found work at J.G. Boswell. And J.G. Boswell was a big farmer and land developer down in that area. And one of my uncles, Herschel, which was the oldest boy, stayed down there and raised his family in that area. And then my grandfather later on came along and moved a little bit further north because there was work up there. And they landed in Houston, California, living in the labor camps that are around Houston, California in those days, picking peaches and doing farm labor work. Then my grandfather saw an opportunity to buy a house, and he bought a house in what they call the Airport District, which is still called the Airport District, in 1945, and moved his family up there. My grandfather, being a very innovative individual, saw a need to pick up burning barrels. Started picking up burning barrels at people's homes, charging them 10 cents a burning barrel. That's how we got rid of our waste back then, is we just put it in a 55-gallon drum and we burn it. Not a problem. So he started collecting that material. So that went on. He kept 2 or 3 of his boys busy. But there was not any work for my dad, who was the baby of 10 kids, and my uncle, who was the 9th kid, which is actually Raquel's grandfather. And my dad is Savannah and Eugene's grandfather. Or my dad is their grandfather, excuse me. So that's kind of how stuff started forming. And then by 1945, the company was called Airport Garbage. And that was the company that we went with for quite a few years. It was just a company, and it went on. So in 1961, my grandfather saw an opportunity, and he bought some land in Washington. And at the time, the government was asking people to come up there, and for about $10 an acre, you could buy all the desert ground you wanted. But they had a very luxurious thing that was called the Columbia River. The Columbia River had a lot of water, and that water needed to be diverted onto that ground and develop it into farmland. If you go up there today, it is humongously big farming country. But he saw an opportunity and sent up one of his boys named Sterling, and then another one, Leonard, went up later on after Sterling had bought some property, and that was a move up in that direction. In 1960, my grandfather, my dad, and my uncle since they were the babies and some of the older brothers moved on to do some more glamorous stuff, farming, they got to stick around and be in the garbage business, which was not that glamorous. I can't say it still is today, but it is. I'm very proud to be a garbage man. There an opportunity come along in 1960, they built a facility on Yosemite called Camel Soup. Well, Camel Soup was brought here to build chicken pot pies. The chicken pot pies were not in the microwave little containers that we see today. They were in a aluminum pie pan type of aluminum. Well, unfortunately, most manufacturers don't get to be able to sell everything, and they make mistakes and different things like that, and that stuff has to be thrown away. Well, my grandfather was getting to the point where I'm getting old, I don't want to take on any more ventures, and he told my dad and uncle, Leroy, that if you want to take over the Camel Soup, here's your opportunity to get into this business. But first, you have to finish your job working for me, collecting garbage and running a route. Then you can go take care of Camel Soup. So they juggled both their lives and moved stuff around. And that's when actually we got Gilton airport garbage got into recycling. And the way we were recycling is we didn't have all this modern technology, and everything was happened to invent something. And so they needed to bale aluminum where they could ship it to the end user. And they came up with a brilliant idea. We'll find us an old hay baler that makes the small hay bales, and we build the aluminum cans in that. And they also build the cardboard that came from that facility. So the cardboard and the aluminum cans are recycled. Well, now we have also the fillings of the ingredients that went into the chicken pot pies. What are we going to do with that? Well, they came up with a great idea. It's got to be able to feed hogs. So they started feeding hogs with it. Well, how are we going to cook this so-called swill? Well, they got them a 2,000-gallon tank, and they propped it up on some concrete blocks, and they just shoved some car tires under there, and lit them on fire, and that pretty much cooked the material. Well, back in 1960, that was acceptable program because no one thought anything about those tires making black smoke. So that's how they ended up doing and getting in the hog business in those days. So things progressed on. 1961 comes around. My grandfather says, hey, I'm ready to retire. And Gina Leroy, I want to sell this business to you. So that's when Gina Leroy went and started taking over airport garbage and took it from my grandfather. Well, they needed a new yard because there wasn't really a yard because all we did was park the trucks that we had at that time behind my grandfather's house. And he lived on Benson, and he had the alley, and he was able to park the trucks in that lot that was behind the house. Well, that wasn't good enough anymore, so they had to move on and say, okay, we need to build a new place. So at 1722 Mono Drive in 1962, Dad and Leroy built a building, shop, an office, and we were like, in modern times, we had a facility that kind of looked like a business place. And so this is a picture of some of that back in the 80s. I don't know if you've seen the picture before that, but that was prior to 1980. And that's what our yard looked like when it was in wintertime. So we basically went in, you pulled your truck out with a tractor, got it out on the road, got in the truck, and that was all manual labor, all manual work. And that's how we got out on the routes every morning. Whatever it took to get the job done, that's what we had to live with. Then we got to the other point where we had concrete, and we thought we were, we'd probably died and went to heaven when we had concrete, and we could just drive the truck out all year long and not have to worry about the rain. When the rain came, we did not like the rain because it cause more work. So those are some of the things that took place, and that's when that operation expanded. Well, in 1964, Gene and Leroy had owned the business in 62, and the city of Oakdale approached them and said, hey, can you collect our waste? So in 64, we took over the city of Oakdale. And then 1968 came along, and Conadina Cannery was in Riverbank, and you can see remnants of it still in Conadina, Riverbank, when you go through Riverbank. But that was a tomato processing facility, and we started hauling tomatoes and their wet waste from that material, and we were doing Del Monte and Modesto and Escalon Packers in Escalon. And so 2 of those facilities are still in operation. In 1974, we took over the city of Escalon, and in 1976, we took over the collection in Riverbank. In 1978 rolled around, and if you remember earlier, I talked about my dad wasn't able to work for his dad because there wasn't enough work there. But there was 2 brothers called Sanders, Herschel and Clyde, and they had a trash collection business, and my dad worked for them. Well, they looked at my dad as their son, and just when they got ready to retire, they came to Dad and Leroy and said, you are going to buy our business. We're going to make that possible. So they figured out a way how to buy the business. And so October 1st of 1978, we doubled our size of our operation. Well, we did not double our yard, but we doubled how we had to get stuff in there. So that was just part of the funness of being in our business. So 1980 comes along, and that's a picture of about 1980 when we were able to build a additional office because people were kind of standing on top of one another, trying to do customer service and all the other things we need to do in the older section of the building. And when we got into that new office, we thought we had died and went to heaven again. So that went along. 1982, we took over the city of Livingston. And then in 1984, we took over the west side of Merced County and the southeast side of San Joaquin County. By 1984, curbside recycling began in the city of Modesto. That was like, whoa, we're going to set out some cars, we're going to run a truck. We developed a little truck to pick up the newspaper, which is this one up in the right top corner, the way I'm looking at it. And we pulled a trailer with some bins behind it, and we put the bottles and cans in one, put the aluminum in one, put the paper in the back of this van, and went around everybody's house, and we thought we were doing a great job. But we did. That was a service that needed to be done. It was the most modern thing that was taking place at the time. And then we eventually built and turned a innovative thing. We took a side loader that had no longer been useful because we had went to automation, which I'll talk about, and we turned it into a recycling truck. We put a conveyor belt in. We could sort and just run this truck along there instead of pull this trailer all over around town with this old van. So that was just some of the innovative stuff that we had to do to keep the ball rolling. So we get along down the road, and we are faced with the fact that we were doing the manual pickup with what we picked up with a rear loader, and some of the older pictures, you've seen some of that. Then we went to a side loader where people set their cans out on the curb, and a one-man truck came in. He drove on the right-hand side, has a door, no door on it. We jump out, we pick the cans up, dump them in behind the cab here in that truck, and that was like a more modern way. We weren't going into your backyard, picking up the stuff with the pack-out can, hauling it back out of the into the front, and that's an old pack-out can right there. And that's how we had to carry it on our shoulder. If you couldn't handle that underneath the shoulder, then you went home because you weren't going to make it that day. And I actually received one of them. It was the greatest Christmas present a 10-year-old boy could ever have received. Was I got a miniature one of them at 10 years old, and I thought I was one of the, you couldn't have bought me anything. I don't care what you bought me. When I got that from my dad for a Christmas present, I was in heaven. So I could go help him do what he does and lighten his load. So in 1986, we get on down the road. Like I said, we needed to do something different. We needed to, we were looking at workman's comp accidents or people, longevity of a driver. If you was over 30 years old, you probably weren't going to make it in this business for much longer. You either blew your shoulder out, a knee, had some kind of other thing, and we had to find another way to do it. Well, the first time an automated salesman come around that said, hey, we've got this new truck, it's got an arm, it goes out, picks the can up, dumps it. This is the way to go. And I go, there's no way that's more efficient than working with a side loader, with one man and doing that. Well, sometimes I'm wrong. Many times I've been wrong. Well, I refused to listen anymore to him. And then he came back, and City of Sacramento and the County of Sacramento had went to automation. And we went up there and started looking at what they were doing and go, you know, either we start doing this or we're not going to be in business tomorrow because we're not going to have anybody able to work for us. So we got to take care of our employees. So we started investigating the automation. Well, it was a change. People, are you crazy? You can't do this to me. This is wrong. You're changing my lifestyle and all that kind of stuff. And the mayor at the time, Bob Wyckoff, in the city of Oakville, had went to a conference, the League of Cities conference, and they spoke about automation. Well, he comes back and says, Richard, we need to go automate it. I go, Bob, I don't want to hear that. He goes, but we need to. It's the future. And I go, you know, we've been thinking that already. Let's figure out how we can do that. So we were able to introduce automation to the city of Oakville, and then all the other cities that I just mentioned fell in and started seeing the benefits of what that was doing. And, you know, people didn't have to go buy their 30-gallon trash cans that got a dent in it because they weighed 100 pounds and we dented it, dumping it in the truck, but it was our fault because it weighed 100 pounds and we dented it, and you know, that went on and on. But now if we tear up your can, we fix it, you don't have a problem. You don't have to worry about it. So in 1990, we go along and things started changing. There was a landfill called Gill Road Landfill out east of Modesto, and it had operated for several years. It was getting ready to close down. The city of Modesto and Stanislaus County were getting ready to build a waste-to-energy plant to burn the trash, to turn it into electricity. And it was either us haul it from our collection sites all the way out to the waste-energy plant, which is out on the west side of I-5. And we said that is not going to be very cost effective. We need to put in a transfer facility. So in 1990, Gilton Resource Recovery at 800 South McClure was born, and that's when we were able to really start being able to do a much wider range of recycling. And we started to do different types of materials like concrete and asphalt. We turned into road base, wood waste into compost or biomass to electricity, fruits and vegetable byproducts to livestock feed, glass, plastic, cardboard, aluminum, metals, tires, product destruction. Opened up a whole different area because we had an 80-acre site that we were able to do all these processes with. And we've continued to expand our area. In 1992, we started a composting facility, and we ran that for many years until the Water Board and the Air Board decided that we need to place a bunch more rules and regulations on composting. And so at the time, the technology and everything was not in place, and I didn't want to start spending the bajillion dollars and then turn around and say, well, that wasn't good enough. Can you spend another bajillion dollars? By then, I would have been out of business. So we decided to stop composting and wait till the technology came. We kept our permit active, but we weren't actively composting. And so we're getting ready to open up now because of the technology and all that. We're getting ready to open up by 2022 a new composting facility that can compost up to 177,000 tons of organic green waste and all that kind of material that will meet the new Air Board, Water Board, Cal Recycle, all the folks that have a governing power to help accomplish the goals that that's going to be placed on it. I'm going to talk a little bit more about later. That's on us. So some of that stuff has been built to that. Well, we go along, and in 1996, Gene and Leroy decide that they are now wanting to sell to the third generation. And the third generation was Karen, Donna, and Ted, and Richard. Raquel is Donna's daughter. Savannah is Ted's daughter, and Gene is my son. And so at that time, when we bought their company, we had 125 employees, and we operated 55 trucks. Well, God willing, and the creek don't rise, we were going to make it happen. The four of us believe God has had his hand in this company since day one. Well, I said, if God's willing, and he has been doing his part, but the creek rose 6 months later after we purchased the company. The Tuolumne River flooded January 2nd, 1997. Well, we got to see that firsthand in many ways. But some of the most impressive things that I saw was we got notified because I knew a guy whose dad was on the board of directors of MID. And he called me on January 1st, which was New Year's Day. We are not operating. He says they're going to start letting water loose from the dam. It's going to go at Don Pedro. Be prepared. The elevation of the water is going to rise. So he starts telling me where that is. I know the elevations of my property. And we go, okay, not a problem. We'll be fine. Well, those predictions didn't last very long. Well, some of the things that were taking place at that time is Modesto Disposal, who was one of the other haulers in the city of Modesto at the time. They had a facility on Hatch Road, and they were adjacent to the Tuolumne River. And so I called them. I said, hey, how you guys doing? They go, well, we need some help. Well, they had $2.5 million worth of automated cans, which probably represented somewhere around 20-something thousand cans, automated cans, sitting in that floodway zone. And all they had to do is river rise, they're floating down the river, and we probably could have retrieved them between here and the ocean. So I said, I will send some people over there. So I sent 20 of our employees, went over and helped them evacuate their facility. Well, we get back to our facility, and the water's continuing to rise. And so by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you know, drivers are coming in, they've running their routes, mechanics are working, everybody's starting to see this water starting to rise. And a portion of our property has a lot of different levels at the McClure site. And they're going, what are we doing? I go, well, gather around, folks. So about 50 of our employees gather around. And I said, we've got to evacuate the shop, which was over about a 15,000 square foot building with all the parts, all the tools, all the everything it takes to keep trucks running inside that shop. We got to evacuate that. We got to evacuate some of our other equipment. We got to get some stuff out. 2 to 3 hours to get it done. So I broke everybody up into teams, gave a team captain, and I said, get it done. Well, that right there it's only been a few years, but it still touched me. So I apologize for that. I have some of the greatest people working for our company. They rolled their sleeves up. They got to work. If I could have canned that spirit and been able to dump it out in different times like we're faced with now, I would be a very rich man. Because no one complained about nothing. No one had a problem about anything. There was no hangnails. There was no, I have a fever, or my tummy hurts, or my hair's not combed right, or nothing like that. It was, what do you need done? We got it evacuated. We got it moved over to our other shop at the old mono site we still have. And the next morning, we rolled trucks out on time and kept on going. We were already out servicing, helping everybody. All the other people that their homes had flooded, we were there to provide the service. The community came alive. People came all over the place to help people move their damaged goods and all that, because most people didn't even have an opportunity to move because you basically had less than 24 hours. We were fortunate enough, we had just a little bit more, but we had a whole lot more to move than a normal house did. But a lot of people lost a lot of stuff. But we were able, because of our people who are dedicated to working for this company. And I will never take that lightly. Never. So that all took place. By 6 o'clock in the afternoon, our maintenance shop was 4 foot underwater. So good thing we moved. But it didn't stop us from doing what we needed to do, because we knew we were essential. We knew we had to get the job done. We knew we couldn't rain. Oh, this is too much for me. For 2 months, it took for the water to recede, but we could get back in and clean the facilities up to make it happen. That little incident probably cost us over $1 million of things that we lost that just wasn't insurable and recoverable. So it was a fun experience. After 6 months of owning the business from my dad and uncle. So that was our beginning of the 3rd generation. I just hope the 4th generation doesn't have a beginning like that. But my dad was right there. Okay, so in 1997, we come up with a brilliant idea, because we started to put 2 cans out, because we were going to collect recyclables and what we call commingled in a second can. Well, we didn't think that that was going to be a good serviceable concept. One of the things was because we knew how people were going to react, because we had dealt with customers. We dealt with their situations. Well, if they heard the truck come by and dump their trash can, and then the other can was full, they're going to call in and say, hey, you missed my stuff. Well, the other truck's 2 hours behind. We knew that was going to start causing confusion. So we come up and just sit down with one of our body manufacturers who was actually in Texas. And when we went to the first ones, and he said, no, you guys are crazy. We went to the second guy, and he goes, okay, I can build that for you. So he built our first dual compartment, one pass truck, as we call it. And you can see on this picture where there's a split in there, and the green waste now goes on, organics go on one side and the trash goes on the other side. It's a 60-40 split because the green waste is heavier than the trash. Has got more bulk in it, and that's why we didn't divide it 50-50. So that was our first adventure into that deal. And well, a little over 24 years later or so, we are now in our 5th generation of this style of truck, of how the arms and how the body works, how all that stuff works to keep up our productivity. So where we would normally pass by your home 104 times a year, we're only passing by your home now 52 times a year. So wear and tear on the streets, because unfortunately the taxpayers get to pay for those streets, and it's additional costs, emissions, all the other things that are going to take place for those trucks running around, the liability, the exposure, all those things have become a bigger, greater thing today than it was yesterday. So that was just some of the innovativeness that we had to think outside the box. And I go back to my grandfather, his innovativeness of picking up a burner barrel. Same concept. Got to make it happen. In 1998, Gustine began. We started picking up the city of Gustine. Well, they asked us to take over their street sweeping. We're not in the street sweeping business. So we started sweeping their streets. And then Oakdale, Riverbank, Espon, Waterford, Livingston, and Houston, they decided to do the same. So 2000 rolls around, and we started needing to do more enhancement because a bill called AB 939 came into place and said we've got to reduce the waste stream. And so we said, well, let's start putting organics, food waste, that kind of things, paper waste, stuff like that into our green waste container. And that way will allow us to divert that from the landfill. So that was another thing that we had started back in 2000. So then we also added on a bulky item collection program where we were able to go out and pick up bulky items, refrigerators, hot water heaters, couches, stoves, stuff like that, that you couldn't get in your trash can, and CRTs that have to have special handling. All these bulky items like refrigerators and air conditioning units and different things like that have Freon. You can't throw that into the landfill. You have to pull that Freon out before you can recycle it. So we have to be certified. We have to bring that material in. We have to bring a certified Freon extractor person in. They've got to tag it. They got to do it. All that costs additional money, but it's making that product now safe to recycle. Before that, a lot of that stuff just went to the landfill. Okay, 2007, we increased the service in the city of Modesto. We basically took over the area that the city of Modesto, or Modesto Disposal, the company I mentioned earlier, we took their area over along with the area that we were already servicing. In 2008, we needed to move again because our little office that we built in 1980 on Mono Drive was now getting a little bit crowded over there again. That one big spacious office that we had in 1980, we were having 2 and 3 people in one single office, which once again, I thank my employees for going along with that because that was the best we could do with what we had to work with. But we moved to our corporate office to 755 South Yosemite in Oakdale, California. And so that made a big difference over there. And we've already expanded that office twice. So we need to do it again. So that's happened. In 2011, as I spoke about, we were in the commodity business. A lot of the fruits and vegetables have been in our livelihood in this valley for many, many years. Getting this material moved out and placed in the right places has been a challenge because it can cause a lot of health problems, flies, odors, all kinds of other things that could take place. But we needed to produce and continue this manufacturing going on in this valley. So we developed a livestock feed and we're feeding it to livestock. And it was one of those things that we had to go through nutritionists and then get analysis and talk to the dairymen and the ranchers who were feeding livestock and show them that this stuff had value because to them it was just garbage because the garbage man was bringing it to them. And so once they do that, they have a different opinion. Well, now what we got paid to haul off from these processing facilities, we buy it from because we made it into a commodity. And so that's how recycling has done in a lot of these different things. We found value, we found a home for it. One of my sayings is, you give me enough of something, I'm going to find a home for it. We'll find a home for it because that's what we are doing. That's what Gilton Resource Recovery is all about, is finding a home for that product. So we decided that we were going to start getting more into it because now there was another level. Another level was the pet food industry. Pet food industry wanted this product because it had value in their ingredients. And we seen that was the next level we had to go to. So we built ourselves a facility, or we actually went to the port and we put equipment in existing buildings. And we installed a mechanical dryer and we built a solar yard in Tracy and started taking this process and this material and drying it and supplying pet food industries all over the United States. One of our major customers is Blue Buffalo. So if you see Blue Buffalo's label on the back of it, most of their ingredients has tomato pomace. That came from Central California, delivered by us. Well, 2011, I'm going to back up a little bit. Another remarkable thing happened. 2011, we probably don't have that much of a knowledge of it. We might remember a little bit of it. But 2011, May 23rd, a tornado swept through the city of Joplin, Missouri. I knew nothing about Joplin, Missouri. I knew nothing what was going on in Joplin, Missouri. And I seen some of the news article reports that come out. Well, it's just like we live in the valley and we might get a little bit of rain. We get a little bit of, the wind blows a little hard, something takes place. And we always hear about a tornado going on in the Midwest. If you're not from ever been from the Midwest, that's happened to them. This thing happened to us. Well, I got a tap on the shoulder and I felt I needed to load my pickup and trailer and take some supplies out there. I knew I could probably go call a couple of plants and say, hey, can you give me a case of this? Can you give me a pallet of that? Let me load my pickup up. I'm going to Joplin and deliver some supplies. Well, the word got out that I was going, And I had 5 volunteers. They were from my church. And then I said, okay, I got a crew cab pickup, and I'm gonna pull my 24-foot aluminum stock trailer. Yeah, well, all 5 of us can ride in that pickup safely, all seatbelts, and we'll get out there. Well, by that afternoon, I had 15. And then it grew the next day to about 25. And then, for whatever crazy reason, Channel 3, Channel 10, Channel 40, Channel 31 came to our location and started asking why and what was going on. And then now people started coming from everywhere. Everywhere they came. People came. We had probably over 100-something people come, and we set up a warehouse at our facility at 755 South Yosemite in Oakdale. We had about 3,000-foot section that we hadn't expanded to. It was just basically part of the warehouse. So we immediately put in a roll-up door, got that in, where we could bring supplies in, got a forklift over there, and we started unloading stuff coming. We ended up taking out 3 truckloads of supplies. Over 100-some people came and helped, or I would have to say 150, 200 people. I had people coming. It was so crazy that I'm there, and this old man and old lady get out of their car. They walk to the back of the trunk, and we had some people helping people unload, stuff like that. And I just so happened was there. They got out 2 bags of groceries. Everything in me said, take it back home. Because you could tell that was their groceries for the next 2 weeks. But I couldn't do that because they were there to bless people. They were there to bless people. So I took their stuff. But stuff like that took place. We had people come from Orland and say, here's a $400 check. Can you make sure it gets to somebody? That changes your whole perspective on the human race. It did me. Because I was a little down. Like, no one wants to do anything. No one, and it changed me. So we loaded up and ended up taking 67 people to Joplin to help do recovery, clean up homes. This is what people were looking at in that ravished area. That's subdivision. That's just not trees. There were houses in that subdivision. You just came upon stuff. Where these guys are repairing this porch, that guy was a Vietnam vet and was disabled. We ran across him and we'll put your new porch on. Stuff like that just took place. I ran into a young man that we're in the grocery store buying some supplies because we're feeding all of our folks. And we ended up at the last minute got to stay at a college in their dormitories. So we had their kitchen and their dormitories to house our 67 people and get our work assignments. So my wife and I are in the grocery store, and I'm on the phone coordinating things for the next day. And my wife's at the checkout stand, and I'm standing off to the side, and this young man's buying supplies. Got baby diapers, food, and you could just tell they were in the tornado. And so I just stepped up and I go, excuse me. I says, well, first he put his card in and they wouldn't take his credit card. And my wife goes, here, go ahead, put it on my tab. Because we were given a lot of money from people donating, and we turned them into gift cards, and we might see some, but we would never see them again. We'd go, here's some water, here's some food, here's a $35, $40, $100 gift card. Take it and help your family. And so this young man goes, yeah, I'm in the tornado. So what are you doing? Why are you buying supplies? I said, there's two centers got all this stuff. You don't have to buy it. He goes, well, he says, you don't understand. I go, okay, well, why don't I understand? He goes, well, he says, my job got blew away. My house got blew away. And my car got blew away. So I'm living in a hotel over here. And I got to, and I go, well, you go out there with my wife. And she's got some other stuff. So he pushed his cart out there, and I finished up doing what I had to do in the store. I walk out there, and I go, what hotel are you in? So I'm in this one right behind. So I go, okay. So I walk. I said, well, get in. I said, let me take your stuff over there. So we go in, we go over to the deal, and we walk in, and this was kind of a Richard thing. We walk in, and I says, can I up his room to another 5 days until I can get some help, because he was going to have to move out the next day. I said, I got people that'll come to his rescue and help him. I said, but I need him to know that he's taken care of for the next 5 days. And because he had baby diapers, so he's got a baby and he's got a wife. And the lady goes, oh, no, we ain't got no more room. I go, do what? She goes, well, we ain't got no room. We got a big party coming in. I go, okay. I said, wait a minute. I said, you got a bunch of looky-loos that are going to come in to Joplin to look around, and here's a man and his wife and an infant baby that need a place to stay. What am I missing here? Well, they're already booked. I said, look, I need to talk to a manager. And so the manager, she steps in, and she's already heard the conversation going on. I said, look, I need you to find 5 days for this man in some place in one of these rooms. You can make that happen. Oh, and I said, look, this is the deal. If you do not get this done, I will be buying this place, and you will be working for me, and I will fire you because you can't get it done. Oh, well, let me see what we can do. So we go back to the college and where we were staying. It was a Christian college, actually. And everybody's kind of hovered around the entrance of the chapel. And we walked up there. Well, one of the groups that came along was a group of young ladies who were future farmers, and they were ranking future farmers. They were the presidents and the vice presidents, and they had graduated from high school and told one of their parents, we want to go to Joplin. So they head to Joplin on their graduation night. Well, they get there, and so happened we were able to take them out on some crews and work with them. Well, they hear me talking about my frustration, what's going on with this hotel. And so they were getting ready to leave the next day, and they go, Richard says, can you take this money? And this money was their graduation present money. Okay? This is where these kids' heads were at. I go, no, I ain't gonna take that money to them. They go, well, what? You got to take that money to them. I go, I'm not taking it to them, but you can get in the car with me and you can take it to them. I will take you down there too. So we took the money down, and they were able to have it. It was a really special moment meeting with them. And on the way, the hotel lady calls me and says, hello, Richard. Yeah, we have 5 days. You need longer? I go, thank you very much.
Richard, I hate to do this. Okay. I might be the biggest jerk ever because you're killing it right now. I just want to let you know we got about a 10-minute window before we send people.
Okay, home. I'm off that story.
Oh, okay.
So, I enjoy talking about stuff like that.
We enjoy it too.
I'm sure you don't. But so that was a very special building moment time. And so then things go on, and then we get into the drying portion. Well, in 2015, Blue Buffalo builds a plant in Joplin, Missouri. Well, we then had to go out there because there was such a high volume that shipping it from California and meeting their schedules, we had to get it closer. So we go out, we rent a building, and started doing stuff in Joplin, Missouri. Well, I found in that industry, customer service is not the first priority. Customer service in our industry is the first priority. You got to take care of the customer, everything else comes second. So as we continue on, other manufacturers of products started coming to us and say, can we bring this stuff in and you transload it and deliver it? Sure. So we started another business out there, and this is just a site that we purchased now, and we've constructed a rail loading yard and silos to hold various different commodities, and we're still expanding, getting ready to build a 20,000 square foot warehouse to hold a lot of the commodities that come in that comes in rail or in truck and mobilize that. So it made it very easy because one of the people who I met while I was out there was actually a graduate of Oakdale High School, who we moved out there about 8 years before, that was in the tornado, but he was a volunteer to help people like us to go out and do stuff. And him and I become friends. I didn't know him when he lived in Oakdale. He was younger than I was. So when this opportunity comes up, I pick the phone up and say, hey, would you like to come to work for us? He goes, doing what? I go, working in Joplin. And so he was our first employee, and now we have 7 or 8 guys out there and about 5 trucks and a bunch of trailers that try to get the job done out there. So that was some of the interesting things that just happened, and I can't tell you, well, a whole lot why. So then in 2013, we expanded down to Leroy, California, and we've got a yard down there that we have trucks and drivers down there. And 2013 was when we renamed our pet food industry to Genesis, PureDri Nutritions, because it was kind of when somebody Googles Gilton and they're in the pet food industry and you see they're in the trash business, it wasn't always a great mix. So we kind of had to change their thinking a little bit. Mm-hmm. So we did that. And so that came along. And in, like I said, in 2015, we opened up this facility up there. 2015, we also took over the city of Houston collection. 2017, we took over the city of Waterford. Currently, right now, we're employing about 290 people. We run out about 125 trucks, and it's a 24/7, 7-day-a-week job that keeps us busy. We ran into the new venture that we have right now is SB 1383, which is going to touch everybody's life one way or another. Your life's going to be changed again, and it's going to be how we do stuff, where we put stuff, how we manage it. And the main thing is organics has to be pulled out of the waste stream. And I'm not talking about organically grown food. I'm talking about organics. Anything that's man-made is not going to be an organic. It's what's not man-made. So anything that is grown or developing, yes, paper is man-made, but it's made from product that can be compostable and those kind of things. So those are some of the challenges that we're faced with right now. We're right in the middle of it. There's some mandates that's got to take place. There's going to be a lot of education. We're in the process right now of educating all of our cities and the staffs and are online involved with a lot of this, but getting the other people involved, and we're going to be reaching out to the cities and the public and getting them more involved, because this bill actually came into effect November 30th, 2020. It has to be in place by January 1st of 2022. So they didn't give us a whole lot of time to make some of these changes. So we have been in the middle of making all those things go and run and move and all that kind of stuff. So I apologize for how long it took. But
don't apologize. This was fantastic. In fact, you have an open invitation. I'm speaking
every week.
Well, we want to have you back, that's for sure. And I don't make the schedule, but we do definitely want to have you back at a future meeting. We're here the third Thursday of every month. Please remember us either through Zoom or in person. Real quick, I can't see the Zoom screen, but does anybody have a question for Richard out in the Zoom world?
Yeah, I do, Richard. This is Bianca with VIP. I was just hoping to get your contact information.
Okay, is that something we can put that on with the...
Yeah. In the chat or maybe in the recap notes?
Yeah, maybe in the recap notes.
Yeah, we can. Okay. We get all that for you. Yeah.
Fantastic. Any other questions?
Lots of good comments. They enjoyed your story.
Yeah, great session today. Thank you so much for joining us.
That was absolutely fantastic. I'm gonna force you to come back. I know we're short on time, but I want to give everybody a chance to do their 30-second announcements. If we can, where does the screen go? Hey guys, does anybody have a short, like we say, 30-second commercial or announcement about anything? Vicky, I'll come back to you. I'll let everybody else do it first. I know you're good? Okay, you have anything? Oh my gosh. Okay. Madhu.
Yes. Hi, guys. So just wanted to let you know, you probably heard I'm the new chair for our ambassador and welcome team meeting with the chamber. I would love to have representation from each of your companies to come in and join our group. We meet every first Friday of the month. We're definitely looking at growing our group so we can reach more members within the chamber. This is an awesome, fun group. And so please let me know if you can send someone over. We'll make sure that we send you out an invite to all of you. And great session. I loved this. Thank you so much, Richard.
Completely agree. Thank you. Any other questions? You can raise your hand or maybe put it in the chat box. Statements.
I'm putting his contact information if they want to wait.
Okay, we're putting Richard's information in the chat box.
In the
chat box, section 2 for that.
Cindy asked, I'm interested in more information on SB 1383. 1383,
yeah. We that's why I want to bring it back, maybe even because we're up against the clock there. Yeah.
And if you have any information that you'd like sent out to the team, we can do that.
All right, Sabrina, Jolene, Trish, those are people to contact with the chamber. Before we wrap up, I want to remind everybody, because this was our best turnout. We appreciate all of you, not only the presentation, but everybody in the Zoom world. Don't forget about us, third Thursday of every month. Next month is September 16th at noon. And our speaker will be Laura Stokes from the Climate Restoration Circle and Suzanne Reed, founder of Connection Collaboration. So we're here every month, third Thursday. We want to get everybody on the email list. What is the best way to do that? Maybe put that in the chat room
they can email. I'll have Jolene put her email in.
Okay.
Jolene, if you could put your email in, that way they can email you.
And I want to make sure you're getting the emails as a reminder. We all need reminders. So that is great. With that, any other quick announcements?
If all else fails, just email info@modchamber that you're asking about Stanislaus Green Team or California Green Business Network Stanislaus, and it'll get forwarded to Jolene as well.
Okay. And what was that one more time? Info@?
I'll put it in the chat.
Modchamber.org.
Fantastic. Any last?
Also, anybody that registers, I automatically take their information and add it to our list.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I just want to say
Very cool session today. Thank you guys for joining us. Richard, I look forward to meeting you and your team in person next time. Sorry I couldn't be there for that today. And thank you for your time today, everyone.
Thank you. We appreciate it. We'll see you next month. Thanks.